Let's talk about the real cause and cure for your dandruff. I'm going to talk about what it is, the current treatment for it, and what's really behind dandruff, as well as a really good solution. How about that? What is dandruff? Very simply, it's scaly, flaky scalp. Okay. You have the layers of skin in the scalp that are flaking off prematurely. Normally, there's about a month cycle where the skin cells in your scalp develop and then slough off. With dandruff, they're sloughing off every week, okay? It's 7 days instead of a whole month, okay? So we'll talk about why that is, but very simply, if you ask anyone what dandruff is, they'll probably show you these little flaking skin cells on their shoulders. And this is why the number one treatment for it is head and shoulders, which they're using a certain chemical, zinc perithione, ZPT, which is an antifungal, okay? And it's also antibacterial. So it'll kill microbes in your scalp, and it does get rid of dandruff, at least temporarily. Now, the problem with this treatment is that it's banned in Europe because apparently it does cause some toxicity to the reproductive organs, okay? Like all chemicals and medications, there's always different side effects. There is a certain fungus that they isolated being behind this whole problem. And that microbe is called malassezia. It is a fungus that has gone rogue, all right? It's part of our normal flora that we have on our skin. And it's really the overgrowth and how this fungus morphs into a kind of a pathogenic microbe when the condition or environment changes, okay? Like all microbes, they live in communities, and there's a lot of different diversification of microbes that are inside our body and on our skin. And when we have this imbalance, we get certain microbes that change their form and they do weird things. And they also cause our own immune system to react with certain defenses. And there's inflammation that occurs and collateral damage. So at the very root of dandruff, there's really an imbalance in the microflora on your scalp, where we have a kind of a morphed fungus that is no longer friendly. So it's creating an immune reaction. And what people don't realize is that you have not just friendly bacteria, you have friendly yeast, you have friendly fungus on your body and inside that is helping you, okay? Just like the soil, you don't just have friendly bacteria, you also have friendly yeast and fungus that without that yeast or fungus, the plants can't dig their roots and absorb the nutrients as well. So the fungus is just as important as the bacteria in doing its job. Without the fungus in the soil, they can't dissolve the minerals to really pull it in and allow the roots to absorb it into the plant. And apparently this fungus that grows on your scalp eats lipids, okay? It eats fats. It eats the sebum, which is the oil that comes from the oil glands around the follicles, around your hair follicles. But what's interesting about this fungus is it doesn't like all the fats, okay? It only likes the saturated fats. It likes to eat triglycerides. It doesn't like to eat the omega-6 fatty acids. And that's very interesting because the omega-6 fatty acids are the inflammatory acids. So personally, I wouldn't eat the omega-6. I would definitely eat the saturated fats, but not the omega-6, because these are the inflammatory type fats, which has been linked to inflammation, which is exactly what's happening on your scalp. Is just the tip of the iceberg. And what's really going on, it's happening in your gut flora. Now, obviously, if you affect the gut, you affect the skin, you affect a lot of other things. But an isolated symptom of dandruff on your scalp, there's probably a lot of other things going on. For example, there's a huge correlation between people developing dandruff and just after they had some type of antibiotic, right? So you're taking this antibiotic internally, it's killing off your microflora in your gut, and then you're ending up with a systemic problem on your skin. The same thing happens when you take an antibiotic, right? You kill off the bacteria and you end up with a yeast infection, which can happen in your mouth. I mean, just because you affect one part of the body doesn't mean that it can't be systemic and start invading other parts of your body. We do know this antibiotic kills only bacteria. It doesn't kill viruses. It doesn't kill fungus or yeast. And this is why it's very important to understand the microbiome. You have a lot of different types of microbes growing in your gut and on your skin. And you have to understand that certain microbes like bacteria keep the fungus in check, keep the yeast in check. And if you wipe out the bacteria, then the yeast and fungus can grow at a very, very high rate. What do you think would be a good solution to dandruff? Well, why don't we just add the bacteria back in to the skin? Okay, that sounds pretty good, right? And just so you know, the solutions that I'm coming up with, I found while searching patents for natural remedies to dandruff, which is actually quite fascinating. And I'll put those links down below. I get so much great data from patents, because when someone puts a patent out, they give you all this amazing research first. So it helps to consolidate a lot of data that I probably wouldn't find if I'm just doing searches on Google. So the first remedy that I'm going to recommend, and there's quite a few different things you can do for dandruff, but it is to put back in the microflora to keep this fungus in check. And I'm going to recommend you get that microbe from kimchi. Okay, now you're going to be using just the juice of it, the fluid, not the actual, the cabbage or anything like that. You get 1 teaspoon and you mix it in some water. Okay, and when you take your shower, okay, you use your shampoo, whatever. Right when you get done, you can topically put this diluted solution into your scalp. You rub it in your scalp and you wait for 15 minutes. You go back into the shower or the sink and rinse it out. What you're doing is just putting a probiotic back into your scalp. There's a lot of other things you can do. There's other options, okay? I'll just tell you a few. 2 teaspoons of olive oil with a half a teaspoon of coconut oil, which has lauric acid, which is really good as an antifungal. You can rub that into your scalp before you go to bed. Then you wake up, take a shower, and then you can just clean your hair. But the point is, there are other things other than just putting this probiotic back into your scalp. You can use a diluted tea tree oil, diluted garlic oil. You can use diluted oregano oil. There's so many different things you can use as a natural antibiotic without the side effects. Now, the next thing I'm going to recommend is to really fix your diet, because I really believe that if you don't fix your diet, this dandruff probably just going to keep coming back because it's coming from an imbalance in your gut. And one thing about yeast or fungus, okay, or candida, those microorganisms love sugar. They are carboholics. I mean, think about fermentation, okay? Making alcohol, vinegar, yogurt, all these fermentation type processes. What are they fermenting? They're fermenting carbohydrates, sugar. Guess what type of diet you should be on? Low carb, no sugar diet, okay? And then of course, do the healthy version of the ketogenic diet, which is low omega-6 fatty acids. So I would avoid the soy oil, the canola, the corn oils, which are very inflammatory. There are a lot of people who get on the ketogenic diet and their dandruff goes away without even doing anything else. So you should know that. I would also start eating foods that have probiotics. Sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir are just a few. Number 3, change your shampoo. If you're using a typical shampoo and a conditioner, if you read the back of the label, there's a lot of different chemicals. And a lot of these chemicals are antimicrobial. So it's very similar into putting insecticides, pesticides, herbicides into the soil. It's going to disrupt the microbiome. Well, the same thing that's going to happen when you start putting these chemicals on your hair. Not to mention, some people use a lot of hairspray. They use chemicals with dyes. They use their hair dryer with high heats. All these things affect the microbiome of your scalp. So if you find a shampoo and conditioner that's clean, that doesn't have chemicals, and if you want a good one, I will put a link down below. But this is just something that people need to be aware of. And number 4, get a shower filter that filters out at least chlorine and maybe even fluoride. Chlorine in tap water, city water, and fluoride are very, very irritating to your microbes on your surface of your skin. And when you get a good shower filter, you may find that your skin, not just on your scalp, improves, but the rest of your skin and your face. You might find an improvement in your acne. You might find that just the overall tone of your skin is much, much better. Now, the next most important video for you to watch would be the one that I did on acne, okay, relating to this topic. Check this out. I put it up right here.